All right, so tonight we're diving into something every cyclist has dealt with, but maybe not thought too deeply about.
Night riding, visibility, safety, the whole deal.
Exactly. And you, our listeners, you sent in a ton of stuff.
Mhm.
Research papers, news articles, even some personal stories. I mean, we've got regulations on lights and reflectors, even some driver surveys in the mix.
It's quite the collection, yeah.
It is, and it's going to make this a really interesting deep dive. Our mission tonight is to sift through all of this and give you, the cyclist hitting the road after dark, what you really need to know. And I'm telling you, there's one thing about bike lights. Well, it might surprise you.
A lot of assumptions out there about how visible we are at night, assumptions that cyclists and e-drivers make.
Okay, so let's start with why this is so important. Got this New York Times article here, and it talks about nighttime pedestrian deaths in the U.S. Since 2009, they've actually spiked.
Unlike other developed countries, which is really concerning.
Right, big red flag. Now, granted, we're talking cycling, but I gotta think the risks are pretty similar.
Absolutely. And a major reason nighttime is so much more dangerous is how our vision changes in low light.
Like our eyes go into a whole different mode or what?
Exactly. And that research you sent, the conspicuity of pedestrians at night, breaks it down really well. So daylight, we use cone cells, sharp detail, color, all that. But at night, it's rod cells.
Rods.
Rods. They're good at motion detection, but not so much for detail or color.
So everything's kind of blurry and less vibrant.
Exactly. Almost like having tunnel vision.
And drivers are dealing with this too, right? Oncoming headlights, street lights, their eyes are constantly adjusting.
You got it. Never fully adjusted to the dark. There's even this term, twilight envelope, that area around headlights where drivers naturally focus. Anything outside of it, much harder to see.
So basically, everyone's vision is compromised at night, and we may not even realize how much. That's kind of unsettling.
It is, and it leads to another problem, overconfidence. Several of the studies you sent show that both drivers and cyclists overestimate how well they can see in the dark.
Wait, so we think we see more than we actually do?
Exactly. Drivers, they can usually steer fine in low light, so they assume their vision overall is good. And cyclists, well, we often think those bright headlights, taillights make us super visible, but
Their research says otherwise, right?
right. These studies on cyclist conspicuity all point to one surprising thing. Bicycle lights alone don't make cyclists significantly more recognizable to drivers.
Hold on. You're saying a driver might see the light, but not register it as a person on a bike.
You got it. Like seeing a random blinking light in the distance. It catches your eye, but you don't instantly think, oh, there's a cyclist.
That's kind of mind-blowing. And I bet those cyclist stories we got back this up, right?
Absolutely. Cyclists often pile on lights thinking more equals safer, but
Not necessarily the case. Okay, so lights aren't the magic bullet. What's going on here? Why don't they work as well as we think?
well, a few reasons. One idea is that handlebar lights, they're often mounted pretty low,
Okay.
so they end up blending in with car headlights, street lights, all that visual clutter.
Like trying to spot one star in a brightly lit city.
Precisely. And then flashing lights, yeah, they grab attention, but do they give drivers enough time to process what they're seeing? Is it a car turning? Road work? A cyclist? Hard to tell.
So it's not just about drivers seeing something, it's about them understanding what they're seeing.
Exactly. And a single flashing light doesn't exactly shout, human on a bike. Turns out, though, there's something our brains are wired to recognize really well, even in the dark. Human movement.
Oh, this sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Have you ever heard of those point light walker experiments?
Oh, yeah. Scientists put lights on people's joints and film them moving in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can tell instantly it's a person walking, even though it's just a bunch of dots. Kind of freaky, actually.
Yeah. So how do we use this biomotion thing to make cyclists more visible at night?
That's where reflective gear comes in. It's not just about being seen, it's about being recognized as human in motion.
Okay, I'm ready to ditch the disco ball on my handlebars and get reflective. Where do we even start?
So a reflective vest is a good starting point, right? It's a large surface area for reflecting light, makes you stand out. But a static vest, it doesn't really scream human in motion, does it?
True, it's just like a bright blob. How do we make it more dynamic?
Well, think about the parts of your body that move the most when you're cycling. your ankles and knees.
Aha, so adding reflectors there, we'd get that moving point light effect.
Exactly. Instantly, your movement becomes more recognizable to drivers, more human-like. And several of those studies you sent, they found that ankle and knee reflectors, combined with a vest, made cyclists visible from much farther away.
How much farther are we talking?
One study found cyclists with a vest, A and D ankle reflectors, were visible almost 6 times farther away than those wearing dark clothing. That's huge E.
6 times. Wow, okay, so I'm basically creating a moving target that drivers can't miss. But let's be real, those vests aren't always the most stylish things.
You're not wrong. Lots of cyclists say they feel bulky, self-conscious wearing them. But the good news is research also shows that thinner, patterned reflective strips can be just as effective.
So you could be safe and stylish. Sign me up.
Exactly. You've got jackets, pants, even shoes out there now with strategically placed reflective details.
So instead of one big vest, I can have these little flashes of reflectivity all over, highlighting my movements. It's like I'm wearing a moving constellation.
I like that. And remember, visibility from all angles is important. Front, back, sides, 360-degree biomotion shield, that's what you want.
Okay, what about helmet lights? Are those worth considering?
They can definitely help. Studies have shown helmet-mounted lights improve visibility, especially from a distance.
Interesting. So maybe the key is to have a light source higher up, separate from the reflective gear on my body.
That's a great question. Needs more research, for sure. But yeah, could separating the light source and the reflectors create an even stronger biomotion signal? It's something to think about.
Right. Imagine helmet light illuminating your head, and then those reflective strips on your legs really showing your pedaling motion, like a moving beacon.
Exactly. The goal is to make your movement recognizable as a human on a bike, even in a driver's peripheral vision. But even with the best gear, the best strategies, we gotta acknowledge we can't control everything.
You're talking about driver behavior, right? Some of those cyclist stories, drivers just not seeing them, even in broad daylight.
It's a frustrating reality. We can take all the precautions, but some drivers just aren't paying attention.
Like they're in their own little world, oblivious to cyclists, pedestrians. Makes you wonder if all the reflective gear in the world can really make a difference sometimes.
It's a valid concern, and it highlights the importance of things like, safer infrastructure, better driver education, stricter laws around distracted driving. But in the meantime, we can only control our own choices. And that includes making ourselves as visible and recognizable as possible.
Right, it's about being proactive, doing what we can to mitigate the risks.
And cyclists, we're not always perfect either, right? Remember that point about single bicycle accidents being more common than car-related ones? Just a reminder that we got to be vigilant about our own behavior, too.
Oh, yeah, that was an eye-opener. Like, we have to take responsibility for our own safety, not just rely on drivers to see us.
Exactly. Paying attention to the road, riding defensively, choosing safe routes, maintaining our bikes, all part of being a responsible cyclist.
So it's a two-way street. We need to be visible to others, but we also need to be aware and ride in a way that minimizes risks. Okay, I'm definitely feeling more informed already.
Great. So you're sold on the reflective gear, right? But now you're standing in the store, overwhelmed by all the choices. Let's talk about how to actually pick the right gear and use it effectively.
Yeah, it's like you walk into this store, and it's just this sea of reflective vests, blinking lights. Where do you even begin?
It can be overwhelming, for sure. But first thing, think about visibility, right? You want wide reflective strips strategically placed, catching light from all angles.
So it's not just about how bright it looks in the store, it's how well it reflects back towards drivers' eyes out on the road.
Exactly. And remember those cyclists we talked about complaining about bulky vests? Comfort and style matter too. You're way more likely to wear something if it's comfortable, and you like the way it looks.
Makes total sense. No point in having super reflective gear if it just sits in your closet because you hate wearing it.
Exactly. And luckily, there are tons of options these days. Sleek jackets with subtle reflective accents, lightweight vests that pack down easily, even shoes with reflective detailing.
So it's about finding that balance. Visibility, comfort, and style. Something that works for you, how you ride.
Absolutely. And think about versatility, too. Could you use the same gear for running, walking, get more use out of it?
Good point. Now, we know ankles and knees are key for that biomotion thing, but what about other areas? Should I be reflective head to toe?
Well, think about creating a visual triangle. Ankles, knees, we've got that covered for biomotion. But you also want something higher up to make your upper body visible. A vest or jacket is great for that.
Okay, vest up top, reflectors on the ankles and knees. Got it. Anything else?
You can add armbands, gloves, even a backpack with reflective panels.
Oh, yeah.
Anything to break up your silhouette, make you stand out more.
Like turning myself into a moving constellation, guiding drivers through the night.
Love it. And remember, keep your gear clean. Dirt and grime reduce its effectiveness.
So, hand wash, probably. Avoid harsh chemicals.
Generally, yeah. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions, though,
Mm.
and inspect your gear, Cracks, peeling, fading, time to replace it.
Like any safety equipment, got to keep it in good condition. Now, you've seen a lot of cyclists out there. Any pet peeves when it comes to how people use reflective gear?
Oh, yeah. Biggest one. People wearing it improperly. Vest hanging open, tucked into their pants. Defeats the whole purpose.
Like having a secret weapon but forgetting to take it out of the holster.
Exactly. And then you get the opposite, people going overboard. So much reflective gear, it's distracting, even blinding for drivers.
So there's a sweet spot. Too little, you're invisible. Too much, you're a hazard.
Right. It's not about looking like a Christmas tree. It's about being clearly recognizable as a cyclist.
Strategic placement and balance are key. Well, we've covered a lot tonight. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before they head out for their next night ride?
Remember, knowledge is power. Knowing how vision changes at night, how drivers perceive things, that's the first step to staying safe.
Right. Being aware of our own limitations and the limitations of others sharing the road.
Invest in good reflective gear, something you like that you'll actually wear. Make it a habit, like putting on your helmet.
Should be second nature. Gear up, light up, ride smart.
Exactly. And most importantly, be mindful out there. Pay attention, ride defensively, make smart choices. You're sharing the road. You can't predict what others will do.
Great advice. It's about being a responsible cyclist, not just a visible one. All right, that wraps up our deep dive into cyclist conspicuity at night. Hopefully you're feeling a lot more informed, a lot more prepared for your next after dark adventure. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and stay visible.